Ayo, back at it again with another video. Thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate it. So this is a video about conference expansion, realignment, and whatnot. So I think the ACC is going to lose a lot of schools moving forward. The next wave of realignment is probably scheduled for the early 2030s, late 2020s. Florida State and Clemson are the most vocal schools that want out. So I think the ACC actually loses 8 schools. So currently the ACC is at 18. You lose 8, you're down to 10. I think the Big Ten and the SEC are definitely interested in ACC schools. I think both are interested in expansion for different reasons. For example, I think the Big Ten is focused on your TV viewership numbers, especially in football. Florida State and Clemson really get you that viewership numbers that you're looking for. Miami and Georgia Tech are also your 4 big brands for TV viewership within the ACC. So I think the Big Ten is focused on TV viewership. I think the Big Ten is focused on TV markets. I think if you can get into some matchups with your power brands, Florida State versus Ohio State, or maybe Clemson versus Penn State, or Miami playing Indiana or Michigan or Oregon, or Georgia Tech playing any one of your brands, maybe a USC or UCLA or Nebraska or Iowa, I think really adds to your TV portfolio. I think the SEC expands also, but I don't think they're interested in football this go around. If you look at the SEC, they're really focused on 2 things: 1, regionality, and 2, football. Football was the main focus of last realignment go around when they picked up Texas and Oklahoma. And the cycle before that, they were focused more on expanding into different states. So if you remember, in the early to mid 2010s, picked up Missouri and Texas A&M from the Big 12. That got them into the state of Texas with Texas A&M and got them into the state of Missouri with Missouri. So I think the SEC is focused on Virginia and North Carolina, those 2 states. So I think for the SEC to get up to 20, I think they're going to take Virginia, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, and NC State. There's a lot of politics going on at the state level in the states of Virginia and North Carolina, so I don't think lawmakers and politicians and your board of governors or whatever want those schools, especially in the state of North Carolina, separated. So I think the SEC takes Virginia, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, and NC State to get up to 20. The Big Ten is at 18 currently, so 19, 20, 21, and 22. So, with that being said, the ACC is now down to 10 brands, 10 schools. So these are the 10 that you have left. You have Wake Forest, Syracuse, Pitt, Louisville, Boston College, Duke, SMU, Cal, Stanford, and Notre Dame. Notre Dame is an all-sports member with football independence. So technically you have 9 full members plus Notre Dame. So this is the point where you're at an impasse. Do you rebuild with these 10 schools or 9 plus Notre Dame, or is it a collapse? So at this point, I think it's collapse. I think the 7 schools of Duke, Wake Forest, Syracuse, Pitt, Louisville, Boston College, SMU probably go to the Big 12. Those are pretty solid brands. The Big 12 definitely is focused on basketball. That would really help in the basketball department, especially with Duke and Syracuse and even Louisville. I think the Big 10 definitely goes after Cal, Stanford, and Notre Dame. So if you're keeping track of how many goes to each conference, I think both the Big 10 and the Big 12 get 7. So Big 12 gets Duke, Wake Forest, Syracuse, Pitt, Louisville, Boston College, SMU, and the Big 10 gets Cal, Stanford, Notre Dame, along with your 4 original ones in Florida State, Clemson, Miami, and Georgia Tech. I'm not sure why my computer's acting strange at the moment, but it is. So the SEC gets 4: Virginia, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, NC State. The Big Ten gets 7, and the Big 12 gets 7. So Florida State, Clemson, Miami, Georgia Tech, Cal, Stanford, Notre Dame to the Big Ten. So 18 current members plus 7 is 25. The SEC gets up to 20. And then the Big 12, currently at 16, you add 7 to 23, and then probably you take, if you're the Big 12, you probably take UConn to get to 24. So Big 10 at 25, not a perfect number, but not a bad number. Big 12 at 24, well, 23, then I would probably add UConn to get to 24. And then you have the SEC at 20. Because you have 16 currently, Virginia, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, NC State gets you to 20. I think if you're the SEC, I think you're focused on geography. But if you're ESPN, the TV partner for the SEC, I think the ESPN does not want to lose Florida State and Clemson. I don't think they want to lose these big brands to the Big Ten because the Big Ten does not have a media partnership with ESPN. They have it with Fox and NBC and CBS. So, and I think the Big Ten is probably looking for a 4th media partner. Probably a streamer like Amazon is probably the safest one because Netflix does sports streaming, but not to the level of Amazon. So I think the Big Ten expands for TV viewership and media markets, and I think the SEC expands for regionality. It's a win-win-win for the Big Ten, SEC, and Big 12, and, the only person it's not good for is the ACC. But the ACC basically killed the Big East about 20 years ago, so now I think the ACC is probably going to get the treatment that the ACC gave to the Big East, unfortunately. I like the ACC. I don't want them to collapse, but I think they will. I think they will totally collapse. I think get the Pac-12 treatment. There might be a few leftovers, but I think mostly you lose 8 originally, and then everything else just kind of falls into place. Most of the rest of the schools go to the Big 12, with the Big 10 picking up Cal and Stanford to get to 24, and then since the ACC's gone, Notre Dame needs a place to put their varsity sports. So Notre Dame would be number 25. So that's kind of what I think. The ACC loses 8, and then everything else kind of goes from there. That's how I think it's going to happen. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I think this is probably the most logical way that it all kind of plays out. So with that, that's the end of the video. All right, there we go. Computer's being weird again. So that is the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Deuces.